domestic terrorist, someone who believed in white supremacy.
We need to watch this. This is
a race war.
This is a sad day in Chicago, my hometown, that I was born in, though I didn't live there. But about 7 years before my parents moved me down south. But it's an extremely sad day because of all the gun violence and all the hostility and all the hate-mongering that goes on pertaining to the blood that has been shed in the streets of Chicago. We need to pay close attention to this, which I believe fits more under the guidelines of the false charges that was placed up into my life in 2005, right here in Weakley County, Tennessee, in Martin, Tennessee, pertaining to falsifying files. Falsifying files has the ramification or the tendency of terrorist-type implications. The reason being is because it fits under the guideline of bringing fear and hostility to a group of people, such as pulling down a fire alarm and giving false intentions that there is some sort of a emergency that needs to be addressed, or being in the center of a theater while watching a movie and crying fire, 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 and there is no fire. It's the same, it fits under the same pretense, and I didn't know this until just the other day, pertaining to a stumbling block, that it is against the law to put a brick or any type of a object in front of a blind person purposely so that that blind person will either stumble or fall or possibly even harm themselves. It's a gross act of a concocted story that was paid $3,500 cash to do this because of an actor that wanted to bring fame and fortune to his own career or to his own life. There's also another reason why that I believe my viewers need to watch this. Simply because in 1989, whenever I started going from community to community, whenever I started going from church building to church building, whenever I started going from parking lot to parking lot pertaining to various businesses and factories here in Northwest Tennessee, I was falsely accused by my peers and by the judicial system in this area towards trying to bring some sort of a publicity stunt in regard to the teachings that I was putting out, the literature, the ideology, the theology or ideology that I was putting out, going all the way back into 1989, after 9 tapes had been properly distributed to the White House in 1988 during the Ronald Reagan's administration. I was laughed at. I was ridiculed. I was falsely accused. I was actually put into a mental institution, apprehended, I'll use the right words in a minute, apprehended in Madison County and driven to Bolivar, Tennessee to study me like a laboratory rat in 1989 simply because of various people that thought that I was off my rocker. It was the same type of injustice that befallen my life simply because in 1983, after an automobile accident had occurred in my life that should have taken my life, I started murmuring the fact of me being called of God of the doomsday devil's duel that it talks about in Revelations. And because of it, the city of Kenton, Tennessee, declared me as me being something wrong with me, even though I had never in my whole entire life come close to a mental institution or being institutionalized, but simply because I was talking about evangelical, supernatural, biblical Bible prophecy themes that come out of the Jewish prophecy teachings, they thought that I was off my rocker and that I needed to be put away over here in Kenton, Tennessee in 1983. After my father physically attacked me and tried to finish me off whenever I had 64 staples connecting both of my pieces of stomach together to prevent my stomach from opening up, because I just got through having an operation towards removing my spleen and also my appendix. So I want you to watch this. It's an embarrassing moment for Chicago, but they make a really strong point pertaining to the gun violence that's not just in Chicago, but it's all over this countryside. Something has gripped this country in bringing a wedge between sanity and insanity, and the only thing that I know to be able to put a finger on it is demonic, is pertaining to sorcery that has taken the American people's lives over. So please, let's watch this sad affair that is now currently unfolding in Chicago, Illinois, the same state that I was born in, up towards the northern region of Chicago, up towards the Antioch, Round Lake, Fox Lake area, where I was operated on at the age of 2 weeks towards having a kidney removed because they thought that I was going to die as an infant. And there at St. Teresa's Hospital, between the technology of the doctors and between good, earnest prayer, God kept his mighty hand upon to my life. Please, let's watch.
Well, with a lot of people, journalists, politicians, on his list of targets. We're talking about Smollett, and we rightly should be, but we also should be talking about this domestic terrorist who has been arrested. And I look forward to all the people who have been jumping down, folks on the left and other journalists who readily believed Smollett at the beginning. I look forward to them talking about this very real case that could have had very real implications if he had gone through with it.
You are seeing Chicago police officials now walk out to the podium. We're going to listen into this news conference on the arrest of Jussie Smollett starting now. Let's watch.
Jussie Smollett. Please listen. Listen up.
Good morning, everyone. Before I get started on why we're here, as I look out into the crowd, I just wish that the families of gun violence in this city got this much attention, because that's who really deserves the amount of attention that we're giving to this particular incident. So this morning, I come to you not only as the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, but also as a black man who spent his entire life living in the city of Chicago. I know the racial divide that exists here. I know how hard it's been for our city and our nation to come together. And I also know the disparities, and I know the history. This announcement today recognizes that Empire actor Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. I'm left hanging my head and asking why. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations? How could someone look at the hatred and suffering associated with that symbol and see an opportunity to manipulate that symbol to further his own public profile? How can an individual who's been embraced by the city of Chicago turn around and slap everyone in this city in the face by making these false claims. Bogus police reports cause real harm. They do harm to every legitimate victim who's in need of support by police and investigators, as well as the citizens of this city. Chicago hosts one of the largest pride parades in the world, and we're proud of that as a police department and also as a city. We do not, nor will we ever tolerate hate in our city, whether that hate is based on an individual's sexual orientation, race, or anything else. So I'm offended by what's happened, and I'm also angry. I love the city of Chicago and the Chicago Police Department, warts and all. But this publicity stunt was a scar that Chicago didn't earn and certainly didn't deserve. To make things worse, the accusations within this phony attack received national attention for weeks. Celebrities, news commentators, and even presidential candidates weighed in on something that was choreographed by an actor. First, Smollett attempted to gain attention by sending a false letter that relied on racial, homophobic, and political language. When that didn't work, Smollett paid $3,500 to stage this attack and drag Chicago's reputation through the mud in the process. And why? This stunt was orchestrated by Smollett because he was dissatisfied with his salary. So he concocted a story about being attacked. Now, our city has problems. We know that. We have problems that have affected people from all walks of life, and we know that. But to put the national spotlight on Chicago for something that is both egregious and untrue is simply shameful. I'm also concerned about what this means moving forward for hate crimes. Now, of course, the Chicago Police Department will continue to investigate all reports of these types of incidents with the same amount of vigor that we did with this one. But my concern is that hate crimes will now publicly be met with a level of skepticism that previously didn't happen. That said, Smollett was treated as a victim throughout this investigation until we received evidence that led detectives in another direction. I couldn't be more proud of the unrelenting detective work that went into this investigation, and I couldn't be more proud of every investigator that played a part in it. The detective work that we saw in this case is indicative of the work that our detectives do every day in this city. This case in particular involved hours of video evidence, which when combined with old-fashioned police work, uncovered the truth. These detectives deserve all the credit in the world for carefully analyzing the leads and the evidence for weeks before coming to their conclusion. I'd also like to thank the FBI for their help in this investigation. The FBI's partnership with CPD has been pivotal in this particular case. I only hope that the truth about what happened receives the same amount of attention that the hoax did. I'll continue to pray for this troubled young man who resorted to both drastic and illegal tactics to gain attention. I'll also continue to pray for our city, asking that we can move forward from this and begin to heal. And now I'd like to call up Commander Edward Wadnicki, who personally led this patient and deliberate investigation, to walk everyone through how the Chicago Police Department arrived at this point.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Edward Wadnicki. I'm the commander of the Area Central Detective Division. I'm here to answer questions. Okay, the boss just corrected me. Please forgive me. I'm supposed to go through the timeline of our investigation. It's okay. So here's where we are. As you all know, on the early morning of February 29th at 2 o'clock in the morning, Jesse Smollett reported that he was the victim of a hate crime. Detectives responded to the incident and interviewed him eventually at Northwestern Hospital, where he reported to us that the two offenders yelled racial and homophobic and political statements at him and beat him, put a noose around his neck, and threw bleach on him, and then fled from the area. We learned at the time that Jesse was not hurt other than scratches on his face, maybe some bruising, but no broken ribs or serious injuries. So we started a full-scale investigation into this hate crime, a very serious crime anywhere. We quickly found two persons.
Hold it, what did he say? He said anywhere. If anybody has been a victim of a hate crime, it's been myself and David, especially since 2014, since I moved back here, towards all the hate-mongering and the animosity that has befallen upon this property, simply because of the seeds of ignorance that was sold upon to my behalf towards people thinking that I was a bad actor in all of this. And the bottom line was that various people in Northwest Tennessee could not understand biblical Bible prophecy of occurrences that was supposed to have taken place in the last days. So because I was rejected on an early stage, that's what elevated all this other stuff towards Martin, Tennessee, towards trying to cast a shadow of me being a terrorist, simply because that I had used a word to express myself, which was explosion, that there was going to be an explosion of controversy in my life. And even though I pleaded my case in front of about 7 or 8 officers, they still went ahead and pursued the charge that basically costed me $1,000 for an attorney by the name of Benjamin Dempsey to represent me. I wound up losing a 5-acre mini farm. I wound up losing about $500,000 in profit sharing and had to move plumb out of western Tennessee up towards Davison County just to get out of the hate mongering that had been created in 2005 in my life. In addition to me coming back here in 2014, and to this day still cannot get no type of an official apology from either the mayor of Martin towards what he done personally at a church that I had become committed to, which was Central Baptist Church. I cannot get no apology from the mayor pertaining to what their police officers done in 2005. And I can't get no type of an apology pertaining to the judge, Tommy Moore, that allowed for this thing to get out of hand the way that it did here in Northwest Tennessee because of all the hate mongering. Hate mongering is against the law, period. And it would be different if I was sounding a bugle or a brass instrument that was nothing more than a lie. I have devoted over 30 years of my 57 years of life into this ministry, and God only knows at the material, God only knows at the cost that has monetarily been out of my own pocket, in addition to wearing out probably 4 or 5 vehicles, in addition to being imprisoned falsely by various false charges from LBL, from false charges out in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, to false charges right here in Northwest Tennessee. God only knows the inconveniences that has happened in my life, but yet and all, I can't get no type of, I don't know if the right word would be satisfaction, or if the right word would be exonerated. Even my own governor at the time while I was out in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma in 2009. Banded me from all federal facilities here in the state of Tennessee temporarily. Have I gotten any type of an apology from any official, either by a judge or any type of a senator or state congressman or state senator or any type of representative? No. No. That's the reason why I keep reflecting again and again and again. The state of Tennessee is a bunch of hooligans. It's being run by a bunch of hooligans, by a bunch of illegals that still has their minimum wage at $7. The last time I seen $7.35 an hour. I was even told this past last week that the governor made an announcement that we would no longer be teaching Spanish in any of our classes in the state of Tennessee. Is that not bias to the degree that we're not even going to offer our children to be able to communicate with the legals that's already here pertaining to the Spanish-speaking people? I've never seen a state or a county or a region that was so out of touch with reality. Never in my life. And I guarantee you can look at the books. David and I made plea after plea after plea. SOS, SOS, help, 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 help. And all we got was a bunch of litigation and a bunch of paperwork until they finally twisted it and mangled it to their own benefit by bringing false charges into my life. These people are an embarrassment to law enforcement that serve our county, regardless whether it be Mike Wilson and his department that was bogus from the get-go whenever I first come back here in 2014, or the judge or law enforcement over in Martin, Tennessee. They are an embarrassment to law enforcement pertaining to true, wholesome law enforcement that we all should support and we all should be proud of towards being good American citizens. Let's watch the rest of this, please. This is a sad day in Chicago. This is a sad day in America.
Of interest on video that we believed were the likely offenders in this case. We initially put out a seeking to identify, and we got this out in a community alert. We then started searching the area for video cameras and witnesses that could help us with our investigation. During that time frame, we interviewed over 100 individuals in a canvass of the area and a follow-up canvass as our investigation expanded. We located approximately 35 of our Chicago Police pod cameras in the area and in the areas that we determined these two persons of interest fled. We additionally found over 20 private sector cameras, and I got to say that was super useful in this investigation. The city came together to investigate and help the police with this crime. It was because of these pod cameras, our investment into technology in the city of Chicago, and the great assistance from the community in giving us those other cameras that let.
Used to. Nothing's getting built up in there. I don't have to pull hair out of the brush roll.
I'm going to leave it like that. Let me try to find this. This is really sad.
Action power. It's especially important for all.
I hit the wrong thing.
From the very beginning. Ron, do we expect to hear from Smollett in court this afternoon?
Probably not, Craig. Good day to you. This is expected to be a pretty short hearing where the judge will essentially hear a little bit from the state, we presume, and a little bit from the defense, and then set bail in this case, which we do expect, given the nature of the alleged crime here, is going to be within his reach. And so we are expecting him to leave the courthouse at some point this afternoon, perhaps just off camera left position here. But what a stunning turn of events here in this investigation, Craig. 23 days ago, Jussie Smollett was an actor who had claimed to have been beaten just outside his apartment building, garnered a lot of support online from presidential candidates. President Trump even expressing some concern for his safety as well. And then this morning, he turned himself into police at 5 o'clock, and in just a few hours' time, expected to go before a judge here to get a bail set in this case. It's just remarkable how police say they detailed what happened here all the way until last Wednesday, Craig, when those two men who were seen on that very grainy surveillance camera just outside of Jussie Smollett's apartment building, they landed back here at O'Hare Airport last Wednesday. They were met by investigators, taken into custody on a 48-hour hold, and the police superintendent said it took them until the 37th hour before they turned and changed their story and were now going to cooperate with authorities. Here's a little bit of what the very frustrated police superintendent had to say about that twist in the case. Listen.
From the very beginning, we had some questions about it. But as I said, we gave Mr. Smollett the benefit of the doubt all the way up until that 47th hour of the 48 hours we could hold those two individuals, because we just didn't have the total package to support that it was a hoax. So when you heard me coming out saying we are treating him like a victim, that was the truth, because at that time, that's what he was. And I think anybody that reports a crime deserves the Chicago Police Department to treat them in that fashion until we have solid evidence to prove otherwise.
All right, now filing a false police report and being convicted of that crime is a serious crime here in Illinois. It's a Class 4 felony, Craig, with the crime punishable by up to 3 years in prison, also a monetary fine. And at the very end of this news conference today, perhaps the police superintendent was giving some of the parameters of what likely could be a plea deal here if that happens. 1, apologize to the city of Chicago. 2, admit that this was all made up, a concocted story. And 3, offer up what the police superintendent says what Jussie Smollett could give to the city of Chicago for all the work and time and effort that they spent investigating this case, to the detriment perhaps of some other cases that these detectives could have been working on for not having been called off those other cases to work on this. So it's just a stunning day here in Chicago, a stunning last few weeks, and there are now a lot of very frustrated people in this city that the name of this city, the good name of this city, has sort of been maligned in some way by the allegations made here by Jussie Smollett.
And rightfully so. And rightfully so. And he should have to pay some sort of restitution pertaining to all the police work that's been done in regard to these false allegations that he was doing for some sort of a publicity stunt. Once more, the area that I'm in right here in Northwest Tennessee, for those that get a hold of this YouTube platform that I put out. In growing up, all I heard was hate, 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 discrimination against the black race right here in Weakley County. And there was a couple black families that had moved into the area either in the late 60s or early 70s, that these discriminators around here run out by hanging hangman nooses either from their porches or their trees. There is certain pockets in this area. Sandburg is another one that's got a bad name. Down by the river, there are several places that has bad names pertaining to them being nothing but a bunch of bigots, white bigots, that have injected hate-mongering into their lives to the point that it's even in their churches. And now all of a sudden I've come back into the area after living coast to coast 3 different times and realizing that prejudicism is wrong. Regardless whether you're prejudiced against somebody because of their color, or you're prejudiced against somebody because of their age, or you're prejudiced against somebody because of other factors, prejudicism is wrong because it's based around hate. And simply because I wasn't willing to lean towards the environment that had been created in this culture up here, that's whenever I was attacked even that much more so. And today, you can go to most of these city halls around in this area, regardless whether it's Kenton, Rutherford, Dyer, Mason Hall. Mason Hall don't have a city hall, but down towards Hornbeak, or over towards Tiptonville, or up here in Weakley County, or other surrounding areas, you can either go to their county seats or their city seats and see where there is no black people that's on their walls that was mayors, or that was aldermans, or that was this or that. Even to this day, as far as I know, there has never been any type of black judge or black alderman that has ever worked in the Weakley County court system up here in the county seat. So this whole area is just a bunch of hate-mongering bigots. And for me to come back to this type of hate is unbelievable, especially whenever you have people that has falsified records in trying to throw you under the bus towards trying to promote you as you being a terrorist to your own people. That is something that is extremely, extremely serious that the Martin Police Department, the Weakley County Judicial System, is guilty of. That is something extraordinarily serious whenever you're trying to blackball somebody in the degree towards putting a mark on them. It's one thing to try to say that they're crazy and convince everybody and their brother that they're crazy. But in 2005, they went beyond just trying to promote me as me being somebody that was psychologically, emotionally, chemically imbalanced. They went to the point of actually throwing dirt on my grave and burying me. Because if you ever get thrown into a federal judicial system in front of a federal judge of these type of charges, allegations, and they deem that you are a threat to your own people, it usually carries 20 to life. 20 to life in a federal institution somewhere for making terrorism threats or for being deemed as being a terrorist to your own people here in America, which rightfully so. Because if you're going to be over here and you're going to enjoy our bridges, you're going to enjoy our hospitals, you're going to enjoy our parks and our lakes and our rivers and our lifestyle over here, you should be obliged to respect their laws and their way of life over here. I've had a whole group of people that has tried to destroy me. And once more, whenever I first began this campaign in 1989, they tried to say that I was doing this as a publicity stunt. After 30 years has went by, from 89, 99, 2009, now it's 20 and 19. If this is the publicity that any actor would be a part of, may God have mercy on his or her soul pertaining to the hostility and the violence and the lies and the corruption that I've had to experience just in the past 30 years. And I have said this again, and I'll say it again. And I'll continue to say it. Thank God for modern day technology pertaining to smartphone and digital data technology towards me being able to reach out there and get my story out there to the people. Because if it wasn't for this, they would have probably done already buried me on my own property and done me like they done David and drove David off into an early grave. My brother David said to me before he died, he said, the only way that they're going to run me away from 430 Beech Grove Road is to carry me off in a body bag. Well, you know what? They done just exactly that. They carried him off in a body bag because they didn't run him off. And I don't plan on being run off from 291 Thompson Road that's connected to 430 Beech Grove Road in Sharon, Tennessee, zip code 38255. I'm working and dealing with a bunch of morons, with a bunch of hostility, aggravating hypocrites that speak of one thing out of one side of their mouths, but the other side does something completely, totally different. It's a reflection upon the Native American people that said, white man speak with forked tongue. That's what I've been dealing with in Northwest Tennessee. And I'm sure some of you that get a hold of this message are going to snigger and laugh and get your jollies off, because that's the meanness and the corruption and the evil that's been embedded into them in this area. But hopefully there'll be some people that will get a hold of this message. Not just this message about what has sadly been revealed up in Chicago pertaining to this celebrity stunt that this actor has been a part of. But hopefully we will become unified in Christ, the Holy Spirit, towards seeing a mighty movement of God pertaining to a revival that will escalate into a revolution that we will eventually see peace and prosperity fall upon to not only the American land, but upon to the world. It's very difficult to soar like an eagle whenever you're around a bunch of turkeys, or whenever you're around a bunch of people that as far as I'm concerned, are walking, talking demons. They're cold-blooded reptilians. And that's what I've been dealing with now for 30 years in this area. Sad but true. Thanks for listening. Good luck to all of us. We must have a plan. Plan to the pull, and pull to the plan is our new memento here at the Windmill Ministries Missions.